Hello and welcome to Restore 2022. We are reading from the book of Hosea, chapters 3 and 4 today. As we've seen in chapters 1 and 2, but in that chapter 2, it is the Lord that promises that he will restore. And also we've recognized that Hosea's mission was unique and painful at the same time. He's been called to experience the agony caused by his promiscuous wife, a wife whose sexual adultery mirrored the spiritual adultery of the nation of Israel. Unfaithful to the Lord by disregarding and rebelling against his law and messing about with idolatry. So Hosea 3 is a short chapter that picks that after a long unfaithfulness, God told the prophet, "Go and show your love to your wife again, though she is loved by another and is an adulteress. Love her as the Lord loves the Israelites, though they turn to other gods." Chapter 3, verse 1. And most scholars regard the wife in chapter 1, Gomer, as the same wife as in chapter 3. And I agree with that, actually. The basis for this is that both women were unfaithful to Hosea. But following God's instruction, the prophet found Gomer, which had eventually had to sell herself as a slave. But Hosea paid the price to buy back her and to take her home. He says, "to live with me," in verse 3. And as we heard yesterday from Peter Turnhill's input in chapter 1 and 2, this prophecy is dramatic. There is drama, and Hosea is acting as God himself would act. There would be a dreadful time of separation as Israel was torn from her land, but God would remain faithful and finally would bring his people back to their lands. Afterwards, the prophet is told, the Israelites will turn and seek the Lord their God and David their king. They will come trembling to the Lord and his blessing in the last days. Verse 5. We need to bear in mind here that the northern kingdom is in its pinnacle and prosperity economically when Hosea is prophesying. And they've got Jeroboam II. He's multiplied his country's territory. He's defeated Israel's enemy, the northern kingdom's enemy. Control of trade routes brought unexpected wealth. But yet the political life of Israel was marked by murders, intrigues, and many other evils. The wealthy oppressed the poor, and those in authority accepted just corruption and bribes. So in all aspects, the northern kingdom, Israel, the land and its people, had proven completely unfaithful to the Lord. This is not what God intended, because they were cursing, they were lying, they were murdering, stealing, and adultery as well. But the prophet Hosea has moved from his own experience with Gomer to show that parallels that existed in the Lord's relationship with Israel. And at this point, we'll leave the accounts of Hosea's marriage and begin the new section, chapters 4 to 14, which actually they contain oracles of disaster and hope. But although it's moved from Hosea's marriage, we're never far away from it. It's always in the background. It's the transmitter for his message to his people. There's references to the nation as a mother and children. There's other allusions to the spiritual idolatry and prostitution. Chapters 4 to 14 contain speeches that Hosea probably gave at various times in his long prophetic career. And we'll continue with them as we continue with the book of Hosea tomorrow and the coming days. Thank you for joining today, and see you tomorrow for chapters 5 and 6.